People with Disability Australia is a national disability rights, advocacy and representative organisation led by and for people with disability.
Our members, our board of directors and many of our staff are people with disability.
People with disability and our representative organisations fought long and hard for a Disability Royal Commission.
We fought for a chance to be heard and to shine a light onto the systems
which have failed to uphold our rights to live free of violence, abuse, neglect and exploitation.
We told our stories and now it's time for change.
The United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, or the CRPD, gets specific about what protecting and promoting human rights looks like for people with disability. But Australia still has a lot of work to do to meet its obligations.
The CRPD was the fastest negotiated UN convention and had the highest number of signatories on opening day in history, demonstrating just how widely accepted and important realising the human rights of people with disability is.
But we have so much more to do. The CRPD committee gave us a to-do list in 2019, and we need to get a move on. That's what we and our disability sector colleagues told the Disability Royal Commission in Hearing 18.
When Australia signed the CRPD, that was a promise to uphold our human rights as people with disability through concrete, practical changes to Australian society. The government's main tool for doing this were laws and government services, and the plan for how to make it happen is Australia's disability strategy.
We've come a long way since we first signed on to the CRPD, but we still have such a long way to go. The Disability Royal Commission has heard evidence from thousands of people with disability, as well as advocates, supporters, and representatives of government departments and service providers. And what it's heard is that we need to step up. As one of the wealthier countries to ratify the treaty, we have the resources to do so much more.
So, for example, Article 23 of the CRPD says we have the same rights as people without disability to have a family, to make our own choices about whether or not to have children. We have a right to get the support we need to look after our children. We have a right to not be separated from our families just because of our disability.
The child protection system is just not set up to support parents with disability. There's this implicit assumption that disability is an inherent risk to our children. And that assumption can be stronger for women with disability from marginalised groups. We have a system in which it just seems to be easier to take someone's child away than to make sure they have the right disability support so they can keep their child safe.
Child protection systems are set up at the state and territory level, so the rules are different depending on where you live. All of them are supposed to offer parenting support before proceeding to child removal. But when that doesn't happen, or isn't done effectively, parents with disability find themselves struggling against a complex and inaccessible judicial system with very little support.
The CRPD also says we have a right to respect our physical and mental integrity. But it's still legal in Australia to force medical treatment on people. The government claimed an exception where such treatment is necessary as a last resort and subject to safeguards. And we're hearing over and over again that those safeguards just aren't working.
As advocates, we see a really problematic use of medication as what's called restrictive practice. So it's not treating a medical issue someone has, it's being given to people to change their behaviour.
We need the kind of safeguards that can protect the rights of all people with disability, not just people who are able to jump through bureaucratic hoops to complain about how they've been treated. We need a national legislative framework to support disability rights in a consistent way across the country, and we need an independent national oversight body to hold everyone accountable.
Something like a federal Charter of Rights would level the playing field so everyone in Australia can work together under a national understanding of human rights, instead of relying on a patchwork of inconsistent state and territory laws. A federal Charter of Rights should include a central list of rights, require governments and public servants to consider human rights when creating legislation and policies and delivering services, and provide clear pathways to access justice when rights are violated.
This is where the National Independent Statutory Body comes in. Right now, Australia has a vast and complex system of complaints mechanisms for people with disability to navigate during a stressful time in their lives.
A national disability rights oversight system could streamline the whole process, provide accessible information so people understand where to take complaints and how to escalate them.
This is only half the picture. To really protect our human rights, the system needs teeth. It needs to genuinely investigate abuse and neglect, and there need to be real consequences for those responsible.
The evidence from the Royal Commission isn't a surprise to us. We've come across many situations we can clearly recognise as abusive, the kind of thing where you'd expect the police to be involved if it had happened to someone without disability. But people with disability are often expected to address these issues through things like internal service provider complaints pathways. A traumatic experience shouldn't be dealt with in the same way as a double-booked hotel room.
The Disability Royal Commission has shone a light on so many parts of Australian society where our human rights need support and protection.
We must not waste this opportunity to respond with real transformative change.